It's a little bit better since last week. The text has improved after a lot of pushing and shouting, and now it includes gender mainstreaming in it somewhere. It's not good enough, but it's better than it was. We have the Lisbon Treaty, so we have the possibility for citizens, not very easily, but to make their point and act. So that's a good start. And we have the Charter of Fundamental Rights that we need to use as a guiding light. We also have a new Commissioner for Fundamental Rights and Citizenship. And I want to, with all respect, to disagree with Daniela on whether this will change how gender equality is treated. I think it will fundamentally change it. Because now gender equality is about social matters and employment. And what the signal that the Commission is giving, I hope this is the signal, and the Council by accepting this, is they're saying actually gender equality is a question of fundamental rights. And this is how you get violence against women on the agenda. By having political leadership take a stance and say, yes, we need to work on that because it is about equality and it is about fundamental rights. We have, of course, the next strategy that we discussed. We have the Anti-Discrimination Directive. We have the Women's Charter, and I'm very happy to see Commissioner Reding's affirmation to the Commission's work on gender equality, and I think that she will take a very strong stance on that. I'm very confident to that. And then we also have, very blissfully suggested by the Spanish presidency, whom we are very grateful to, an EU strategy on violence against women. We have been working on violence against women for 20 years, non-stop, endlessly, and I think we have made a difference. But it's never a question of people wanting to do something or people being interested in an issue unless there is a political will. If there is a political will, everything else can be found. So we have legislation on tomatoes in the EU, and the shape of lettuces and so on. And we don't have legislation, a legal basis on violence against women. Our legal experts tell us that this is not the case, that what we need to have is political will. And if the political will is found, and we see that in the Spanish presidency, we have a good road ahead to find that legal basis. So I'm urging the Commissioner and the Commission to be working to that effect. And of course, very good news, now we have the Gender Institute of Gender Equality. So we can work on all of these issues in different ways in partnership with the Institute. In relation to the Observatory on Male Violence Against Women, I won't go at length because, as I said, we also have our own observatory and we're working closely with the Gender Institute, the Fundamental Rights Agency, and the Spanish presidency to see how this EU observatory will be formed. But I cannot stress enough how important its formation would be. And I cannot stress enough how useless it would be without proper funding available. So it is a question of just saying we've done something, so we've got now an observatory and it's very nice, or it's a question of making concrete proposals with a budget that goes with it that will support this. Otherwise, it will be an unsuccessful effort. Yeah. Of course, we have to remember that we have an international context that we can base women's rights on. We have the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women of the UN, and that's not a good starting point, but a good finishing point. So although all the member states have ratified the convention, I am very sad to inform you, of course, that it's not implemented. So instead of moving on and having more and more instruments, let's just concentrating on implementing existing, highly important and very comprehensive conventions. I will finish with my last, I hope, yes, is the last slide, that I think that what this agency, what this Gender Institute can do is precisely to draw the links between decision makers, policy makers, civil society, scholars, and bureaucrats. I don't want to be arrogant in saying that, you know, I know what we are doing wrong at the European level. What Miguel said, oh, we're doing something wrong. We're talking parallel languages. So in my previous capacity as an academic, I used to go to academic conferences, talking to academics, oblivious of policies, just saying their own things. Then there's NGOs that want something that is completely non-feasible. And then there's decision makers who make a speech and leave, and they don't listen to people talk and listen to the substance. So what we need is a facilitator to create spaces and I'm looking at Virginia, to create these spaces so that we speak a common language. And this is what is fundamentally missing. Of course, we have the financial crisis, and I think we all know what that implies. And we have the rise of socially conservative forces and the extreme right. And that obviously is not very helpful in our processes. So basically, on behalf of the AWL, I'm here today because I think we need to draw these links. If we are to witness constructive changes in the world we live in, and the recent financial crisis tells me, and I hope that it tells you the same thing, that we need to be making some very fundamental changes in the way we work, and to understand society and our long-term vision in a different way. And it's a very good opportunity. It's a challenge, it's a bad time, but it's also a very good time, because we need to rethink about the way we work. So we cannot continue speaking parallel voices, often in vacuum, but we need to ensure strong links and collaborations if we're going to have outcomes. And I think the director of the Institute is fully aware of this, and I'm glad to see that this morning's session is basically drawing upon all these voices that need to be linked. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for the questions. On the question of the directive, I'll be very blunt because I'm always very blunt. I don't know whether we can have a directive as such, and this is something that needs to be more explored, and we're exploring with our legal experts. But there can be a legal basis, and it is the opinion of our legal experts that most probably we could have a directive. What we don't have is enough political will to do that. And if the member states decide that, yes, this is the way to go, we can find legal solutions. The law is there to facilitate. So it is a question of political will. So if it comes from the member states pushing in that direction, well, we would be very willing to support and work with you in that effort. In relation to my wish list, I have a very long wish list, but I would say that it has to do with issues that would have a more direct and wider impact to most women. So of course, number one would be violence against women. I would say women in decision-making and in leadership positions and how we can facilitate these processes. And of course, anything that has to do with employment and social policy aspects. But mostly what we need the Institute to do is work on indicators, and we want statistics. And this is what we don't have enough of. So if the Institute is there to facilitate that process, we would be extremely happy.